Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to another video lecture by Kami Microbiologist. Today in this video lecture we are going to talk about eukaryotic elongation of translation. Now in the previous video lecture, if you guys remember, we talked about the initiation of translation in eukaryote, and before that we also talked about the requirements for the eukaryotic elongation for the eukaryotic translation. Okay, and we also talked the overview of the eukaryotic translation. If you miss this video lecture, it is present into my channel. You can go back and watch it. Okay. So let's start. Now I already draw the picture, and I already draw the picture just for that purpose, to prevent the time, and due to this way the time will be not wasted. Okay, but you don't worry, inshallah, I will explain it in a detail, and there will be no things will be skipped, so I will explain it in a detail. Now in this video lecture, what we are going to talk about, we are going to talk about the introduction, that what is eukaryotic elongation of translation. We are going to talk about the requirements, that what we require in eukaryotic elongation of translation, and we are going to talk about the steps that are involved in eukaryotic elongation of translation, and we are also going to talk about the mechanisms of eukaryotic elongation of translation. Okay, now first of all, let's talk the introduction of eukaryotic elongation of the translation. It is the stage of translation in prokaryotes, or in eukaryotes, or in prokaryotes, in which the transfer RNA, as you can see, which have the amino acid, which we call it charge transfer RNA or amino acid transfer RNA, which are become charged, and once this charge transfer RNA are brought by elongation factor to the A site, and after that the bond formation will occur with this previous transfer RNA having the amino acid, and with this new transfer RNA having the amino acid. The bond formation will be occur between each amino acid. Now once the bond formation occur between each amino acid, as you can see, so then the transfer RNA which have the amino acid are shifted to this transfer RNA which carry the new amino acid. So this transfer RNA is now carrying two amino acid, and after that what happened, the translocation process will occur, due to which the uncharged transfer RNA are released out, and the transfer RNA which carry the two chain are shifted to the P site, and after that a new transfer RNA will come, and it will brought a new amino acid, and then again the bond formation will occur between each amino acid, and then again the translocation will occur, and third time the new transfer RNA will come, and this process is repeated and repeated until and unless this ribosome reaches to the stop codon, and once it reaches to the stop codon, what happens, we get a long polypeptide chain. Now this is called as elongation of translation. It is also occur in case of prokaryote, and it is also occur in case of eukaryote. But if you guys remember, we talked about elongation of translation in case of prokaryote. So in case of prokaryote, it's very simple and easy. But in this case, it is also very simple and easy, but a little bit it will be complicated. So I will recommend you that before starting this video lecture in detail, you need to understand the elongation of translation in case of the prokaryote, because it is very easy in prokaryote, but in eukaryote it's a little bit complicated. Okay, so this is all about the requirements of the eukaryotic elongation of the translation. Then what we required in this case? So in this case, in elongation of the translation, the cell mainly required the elongation factor, and moreover the cell required all those things which we talked about in initiation of the translation. Means the cell required 80 pre-initiation complex the cell will require. So this is already 80 pre-initiation complex, and all of you better know in 80 pre-initiation complex what we have. We have the messenger RNA, we have the two subunit of the ribosomes 60 and 40, and then we have also the transfer RNA, the first charge transfer RNA, which we call later F-methionine. Now what happened? First of all, this is the situation that we require. So this is the first thing. The second, we required elongation factors, eukaryotic elongation factors. So in eukaryotic elongation factors, what we mainly required? We mainly required three elongation factors. The first elongation factor, we called it eukaryotic elongation factor 1 alpha or A. Okay, this is the first elongation factor that we required. The second elongation factor that we required, we call it eukaryotic elongation factor beta gamma, or we call that GDB complex. So this is another elongation factor. Then we require the last elongation factor that we required. In this case, we call it eukaryotic elongation factor 2. Okay. Now, eukaryotic elongation factor 1 alpha or A, it is just like elongation factor TU, which we talked in prokaryote. So in prokaryote, if you guys remember, we talked that elongation factor TU, the main function of this elongation factor TU, they will, just brought this new charge transfer RNA to the A side. And they have also GTP. So we can say that this one elongation factor is actually GTP. They have GTP molecule. So once they brought this GTP molecule bind on that specific area correctly, then GTP will be converted into GTP plus inorganic phosphate. Now then we have elongation, eukaryotic elongation factor beta, gamma or GDP complex. This elongation factor is acting like elongation factor TS in prokaryote. So the main function of this elongation factor is they will convert this GDP and inorganic phosphate into GTP. And once it is converted into GTP, then it will again bind to the elongation factor 1 alpha, and this elongation factor 1 alpha having the GTP, it will bind to this transfer RNA, the new charge transfer RNA, and again this process is repeated. So they will bring this new charge transfer RNA to the A side. Then we have elongation factor, eukaryotic elongation factor 2. It is just like elongation factor G, which we talked in prokaryote. So the main function of this elongation factor that it helps in translocation. And translocation is that process in which the ribosomes will move and leave one codon. So whenever it moves and left one codon, this is called translocation. So at a time it leaves only one codon. Okay. So this is about the eukaryotic elongation factor 2. It is also called translocase enzyme as well. And this function will be done by the 60th ribosome of the large subunit of the ribosome. And we can also say this is also the GTP dependent enzyme. So it also requires the GTP, in which the GTP is converted into GDP plus inorganic phosphate. Okay, so in this case energy is also required. So these are the main function of each eukaryotic elongation factor. Then after that, we have the main steps in eukaryotic elongation of the translation. So the steps which are involved in eukaryotic elongation of translation. So the first steps, this eukaryotic elongation of translation is also a kind of cycle. It means the cycle is repeated. So it means the first cycle of elongation is we call that amino E side. A means amino, this A means E side. So amino E side tRNA binding phase. This is the first phase. In this phase, what happens? The tRNA will bind on the on the messenger RNA. We will explain it later. Then we have the second steps. We call it transpeptidation reaction. In this step, what happened? This is the second elongation cycle or phase. In this phase, what happened? The bond formation will occur between the two amino acids. Then third, we have translocation, in which the ribosomes will move and it will leave one codon. Okay, so these are the three main steps and stages or cycles, elongation cycles that are involved in elongation of the eukaryotic elongation of translation. Now let's explain the mechanisms of eukaryotic elongation of the translation. This is the situation that we talked in previous video lecture. Means in initiation of the translation, on in which stage we talked that we have a messenger RNA and we have two subunits of the ribosome, and then we have also the charge transfer RNA, the first charge transfer RNA, which we call it F-methionine. Okay, now what happened? This is the second stage. In the second stage, first of all, what happened? The first steps will occur. In the first step, what happened? The first elongation factor, which we call it elongation factor 1. First of all, it will get activated during elongation of translation. Once this elongation factor 1 alpha get activated, then GTP molecule will bind on it. Why? Because energy is required for the transferring or for the shifting or for the moving of this transfer RNA to the A side. That's why GTP will bind here. Now once GTP will bind here, so it will bring this charge transfer RNA to the A side. Okay, the charge transfer RNA once bring to the A side, then what happened? As you can see, the charge transfer RNA, or we call it amino side transfer RNA, now it is present on the A side. Before that, all of you better know translation will always occur in 5' to 3' direction. So this is the E side, P side and A side. Okay, once this charge transfer are bind correctly to this A side, then what happened? This is the first stage. Now once it bind on this A side, then the GTP is hydrolyzed into GDP plus inorganic phosphate. Okay. After that, what happened? This GTP is again converted into GTP. This GTP and inorganic phosphate again converted to GTP by which elongation factor? By elongation factor 1 alpha beta 1 beta gamma, or by the complex GVB. Okay, so these three complexes are connected together and they will bind to this GTP and inorganic phosphate. Once it bind on it, so then it will convert this GTP and inorganic phosphate into GTP. Then again this GTP will bind to elongation factor 1 alpha, and then this complex will bind to the new charge transfer RNA, and again this process is repeated. So they will bring this new charge transfer into the A side, and this cycle is repeated again and again. So this is the first cycle which we called it amino acid tRNA binding phase. This is the first step. The second step is the transpeptidase reaction. Now what happened in the second transpeptidase reaction? The bond between this transfer RNA, as you can see, and this previous transfer RNA, the amino acid, So the second is the bond formation occurred between this amino acid and this amino acid. Okay. Now what happened? The charge transfer RNA, as you can see, the new charge transfer having the amino acid, and this charge transfer and the previous charge transfer which carry the amino acid, the bond formation will occur between them. So as you can see, the bond, once the bond formation is occurred, this is called transpeptidation. But it will be done by the 60th subunit of the ribosome, eukaryotic 60th subunit of the ribosome. That's why we also call this ribosome ribozyme. So ribosome is also acting as a ribozyme. It is also an enzyme. Because why? Because it will make the bond formation, the first thing, and the second thing is, this ribosome will also move. So that's why we can say that this ribosome is also acting as a ribozyme. Okay, now once the bond is formed, as you can see, this bond is called as peptide bond. Now the bond is formed, as you can see. But remember, the bond which is present with this transfer RNA and with the amino acid means this is the amino acid and this is the bond and this is the transfer RNA. So whenever the bond which is present with the amino acid and with the transfer RNA are break down, as you can see, now the bond are break down. Okay, and this amino acid is shifted to this one amino acid of the tRNA, as you can see. So now this new tRNA carry two amino acid. So this is called as a transpeptidation reaction. Okay, so it means the peptide will be transferred to this one, to this new transfer RNA. This is the second step. Now the third step we call it translocation. What happened in translocation? In translocation, once the bond formation is done, then this ribosome will move. And once it moves in the forward direction, then what happened? Remember guys, the messenger RNA and the transfer RNA are not moving. It will be present as it is. But just the ribosome moves. So once the ribosome moves, so definitely their sides means E, P and A sides will also move. So just imagine, once it moves, so what happened? This transfer RNA which is present to the P side will be shifted to the E side, as you can see. And this transfer RNA which carry the two amino acid or the polypeptide chain, let's suppose it will be shifted to the P side. Okay, as you can see. So it will shift it to this, and this one uncharged transfer will be shifted to this. Now this is uncharged transfer RNA. Why? Because the amino acid is released and it is shifted to this transfer RNA. Then what happened? Again the A side is free. Okay, so let's suppose the this A side is again free. Let's suppose. Okay, so again the A side is free. Okay, so when the ribosome move, so then shifting occur, means the uncharged transfer RNA which is present to the P side will be shifted to the E side, and the transfer RNA which carry two amino acid will be shifted to the P side, as you can see. Then we will get the situation like that. Third, what happened? This is called as translocation, and in this case we require elongation factor 2. And in this case, we also require the GTP molecule. So the GTP will be converted into GDP plus inorganic phosphate. So this is the third cycle. Okay. So what happened? Again, the A site is free, as you can see. So once the A site is free, so what happened? A new charge transfer RNA will be, brought at that specific A site. And this cycle is repeated again and again. So again, what happened? Elongation factor 1 alpha and GTP, which is formed by this elongation factor 1 beta gamma, they will form this GTP by GDP plus inorganic phosphate. So again, the GTP form, it will be connected to elongation factor 1 alpha, and this elongation factor 1 alpha having the GTP will brought this new charge transfer into the A site. So then again, let's suppose new charge transfer RNA will be brought. Okay. And then second, what we talked transpeptidation reaction will occur. So as you can see, chart, this is the transpeptidation reaction. Then what happened? We talked the translocation will again occur. So again the translocation will occur. Now during this time, once the translocation will occur, what happened? This uncharged transfer RNA which is present on the E side will be released, as you can see. And it will be released by this ribosome. So it will, kick out this uncharged transfer RNA, as you can see. And the transfer RNA, the bond are also breaked, as you can see. And the transfer, this is also uncharged transfer. This uncharged transfer RNA will be shifted to the E side, as you can see. And the transfer RNA which carry the 3 amino acid this time, it will be shifted to the B side. Again, the A side is free. And again this process is repeated. This amino acid will be brought by this elongation factor 1 alpha and GTP to this A site, and transpeptidation will occur, and then translocation will occur, and this ribosome is again moved, and then the process is repeated again and again and so many times until and unless this ribosome reach to this stop codon. Let's suppose once it reach, okay, now what happened? So once it reached to this stop codon, as you can see, so then what happened? This ribosome will be stopped, and during this time, we get a long polypeptide chain, as you can see. So amino acid connected with each other again and again, and we get a long polypeptide chain. And once it reaches to the stop codon, then the ribosome will be stopped. And then what happened? Termination of the translation will occur. So in termination of the translation, the bond which is present are break, so we get a long polypeptide chain. Okay, and then it will be folded into a protein structure, secondary or tertiary protein structure, and after that the translation will be ended. So inshallah, in the next video lecture we will explain the termination of the translation, that how the termination of the translation will occur. But this is all about the elongation of the translation. I hope you get about the eukaryotic elongation of the translation, and I hope I explain it in a detail. But if still there is anything missing, you can write it into a comment. Inshallah, I will try my best to give you answer as soon as possible. So if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, share this video, and stay tuned, because in the last video lecture, or in the third video lecture, or in the fourth video lecture of this eukaryotic translation, we are going to talk about the termination of the translation. Thank you so much for watching.